And joining me now to talk more in depth about what President Obama's accomplishments and failures have been during the past year, the ever-spoken out Breaking the Set team joins me now. Host Abby Martin and producer Manuel Rapallo. Thank you guys so much for joining me.
Thank you, Megan.
So let's start off with getting your overall opinion of how he did this last year. Do you guys have a grade in mind, Abby?
F.
F.
Yeah.
That's straightforward. And Manny?
A for effort.
A for effort?
Just kidding, no, it's
I think it's E for effort.
I was going to say, you're fired, bro. No, just kidding.
No, is there any president that you would actually have given a higher rating to?
Yeah, I think presidents, overall, they're just managers of, operators of the empire, so you can't really give them that much credit for what they do, because they're just basically managing this system. But, yeah, there have been presidents in the past who have done overtures for good, like Nixon creating the EPA, Carter did some good things. So if you look over the historical context, there are definitely some things that stand out, but
that's exactly what we're trying to do is put this in
I think every president
context.
has his challenges. I think it's difficult to kind of compare one versus the other and try to give a grade to one, but I would have to agree with Abby. You can look at any presidency and see the progressive policies that they had, the things that they did right. Nixon, for example, you mentioned the EPA, and several other progressive policies, but at the end of the day, he was a spy-hungry maniac that, was paranoid about everything, and on top of that, he was a racist. So, what grade can you really give? They all have their flaws.
Sure. Now let's take a quick look at some of the president's shortcomings in the first year. In his second term, he promised to increase manufacturing jobs by 1 million in 4 years. Now, in order to do that, we need to have 21,000 jobs per month to meet that mark. We are falling way short of that mark right now anyway. Obviously, the rollout of the Affordable Care Act was disastrous, and Capitol Hill hearings taking place today and have been taking place recently are enough to kind of demonstrate that. The uncovering of the NSA, as you guys mentioned, is something we've been covering here a lot on RT. Obviously, that isn't only damaging the president's reputation at home, it's also damaging them abroad. And then there's the IRS scandal, revelations about the Benghazi attack and lack of preparedness there, and the failure to get the Farm Bill renewed. No, those are just a few of some of the failures that we were able to find. Abby, what are some of the others that you know of?
Where do I start? Let's start with the NDAA, signing into law the complete evisceration of due process and the rule of law that goes back to the Magna Carta. We're talking about something that you can indefinitely detain American citizens without the right to trial. Sign that right into law. We got ramped up Bush's measly 52 drone strikes, and we have the drone king sitting in his high throne, killing thousands of civilians, ramped up the use of these killer robots abroad, failed to close Gitmo. You can blame the Republicans all you want, but he can close it tomorrow if he wants to. There is a provision in the NDA that allows him to release these detainees to their respective countries. Just failing to seize in the supermajority in Congress, failing to get that public option, escalating the Afghanistan war with the failed troop surge, trying to stay in Iraq. People actually give him credit for leaving Iraq. He tried to stay there past the timetable, NSA spying with zero accountability, war on whistleblowers, and charging 8 people with the Espionage Act, World War I piece of spying legislation. All right, Manny, on to you.
Manny?
Can I even add to that? No, I completely agree with Abby. I think that to start, I think it's kind of erroneous to, at this point on in the second term, say, oh, he had a really tough handover. Yes, he did. Back in 2009, we had the financial collapse. $7 trillion is how much that housing bubble cost U.S. American homeowners just in home equity. $7 trillion. How much, that sparked the recession. That almost caused the entire collapse of the U.S. economy. Yes, that was bad, but what has he really done to fix this? So on economy alone, I think that it's been an abysmal failure. I think that when you look right now, upwards of 20% of Americans are still underwater when it comes to their mortgages. I think that the rate of foreclosures is still really high, and that in itself is causing a depreciation in home values as well. So I think, and all of this is linked to jobs as well. So I think that on the whole, not only on civil liberties and on the war front, but on the economy as well, it's been overall bad. And I think that this latest poll by Gallup this week that shows his approval rating dropping below 40% is a perfect example of that. And if you're looking for a grade, let the American people speak for themselves. It's below 50%. It's pretty bad.
Well, let's go ahead and talk about some of the accomplishments that he has achieved in this last year since the re-election, just to give him some equal time. So, first of all, Jay Carney touted yesterday that the president succeeded in raising taxes on the wealthy during the fiscal cliff negotiations. Obviously, they weren't as high as he had wanted, but there was some compromise, and those taxes were in fact raised. He helped usher in a new era in gay rights across the country, with coming out and being the first president who is in office to support that. He's begun implementing parts of the DREAM Act to help young illegal immigrants become legal citizens. We have a new chemical weapons treaty with Syria, an agreement anyway. We are on our way to cutting net oil imports by half in 2020. We've already reduced them by 42% since 2008, so that's obviously a step forward. In terms of deficit reduction, his goal was to reduce the deficit by $4 trillion in 12 years, and we are arguably on our way to that. And he's in the process of rebuilding relations with Iran just by beginning those first talks in a very long few decades of silence between the two countries. So, Abby, let's start with you. Is there anything that you have to say positively about the president versus some of his previous failures that you mentioned?
Yeah, I think, as you just said, there have been a lot of symbolic gestures. Of course, coming out for gay marriage is huge. However, I'm not going to really be happy until I see a federal law legalizing gay marriage. I mean, and we saw Dick Cheney come out during the Bush administration saying that he supported gay marriage. So it's symbolic and it's huge. And DOMA was huge too. And I don't want to, there are some great things that are going on. But of course, Bush had successes too. When it came to Africa, he was good on Africa relations and aid. So, I don't dwell on kind of these minuscule symbolic reforms. I focus on the overarching policies that are really continuing the destruction of this country and the planet. Syria, I would call anything but a success. Congress and Putin basically forced his hand on that. And all I saw was just fear-mongering rhetoric about that. Iran, great. We're starting relations with Iran, fantastic. But the Syria thing, I mean, let's start diminishing our nuclear arsenal and our chemical weapons arsenal, and then we can start really having some standing in that portion of the world.
Manny, where do we go from here? Obviously, he's going to be in the White House for 3 more years. What do you want to see happen?
Well, I want to see an end to this political circus. I think that what we've been seeing for the last 3 years, since 2010, you had that bipartisan commission that was going to slash the deficit by $4 trillion over the course of a decade. You mentioned this as a potential accomplishment. I see this as an utter failure ever since then, and following 2011. And I think Republicans have their fair share of the blame, yes, of course. But it's been a horrible job that President Obama has done trying to bridge this bipartisan gap in Congress. He squandered his opportunity to do so by having a supermajority when he took office. And I think that what we'd really need to see right now change is to have that sort of bridge building between the two houses of Congress. That's really the only option that's going to succeed.
Thank you guys so much for weighing in and bringing us some of the successes and failures. Breaking the Set host Abby Martin and producer Manny Rapolo. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Megan.